Run. I got him. I got him. My ace, my ace.
I know exactly.
Tenz is currently known as the reigning king of Valorant. Whether it's on Jet with his knives of fury, locking onto enemy heads like a moth to an open flame, or with the frag-producing vampire queen Reyna, terrorizing enemies with eyes of death, Tyson, Tenz, can and will put himself at the top of any lobby, no matter how many talented players are on the opposing team. But he wasn't always this way. At one point, he was just a fun-loving, mechanically gifted teenager looking for his chance to break into the competitive scene. Welcome to Flavors Esports, and this is the story of Tenz. Tenz started like many other Valorant pros, with a little-known game called Counter-Strike. As a teenager, Tenz played Counter-Strike Global Offensive and showed lots of potential. He spent hours upon hours in Counter-Strike lobbies, constantly on the grind to become better and to stand out. And stand out he did, as his aim was unlike most others at the time. His insane ability to make quick decisions and instantaneously flick to enemies was extremely rare. He would oftentimes have competition that were purely befuddled by his skill. He wished, like many others at the time, to go pro in the game. He had the skills, and he had the mentality. The only thing he was missing was a team. But the professional Counter-Strike scene is extremely cutthroat. Hundreds of prospects were being scouted to potentially be the next big thing. Tenz was having a hard time finding a team that worked. After jumping from small team to small team with little success, he joined a big-name team that he thought had a chance to take his name and plaster it in lights. That team was Dignitas. Sadly, his dreams were not the reality, because he, as well as the rest of his team, were unable to achieve anything of note. Tenz didn't let this get to him though. He kept grinding and kept working to achieve his dream of becoming the best in the business. Eventually, another big team noticed. The team that had been the first North American team to win a Counter-Strike major. The team that had signed legends such as Shroud and Stewie2K. The team that could aid Tenz in becoming the star he dreamed of being was Cloud9. Tenz was finally in the limelight after playing for smaller teams for so long. He now had eyes looking at him that hadn't even known his name until the day he was announced to the roster. With all these added eyes and all the added pressure, Tenz was going to have to perform like he had never performed before. Unfortunately, Tenz had a tough time making an impact. Besides a highlight reel play here or there, Tenz was mostly absent from the game, falling into the shadow of other and better players. His inexperience as well as the added pressure of being called one of the best got into the mind of Tenz. Only a few months after signing with the team of his dreams, he was sidelined, and was slowly but surely falling into obscurity. As his focus turned more towards streaming and content creation, people looked upon him in shame, as what could have been was terminated by his own nerves, as well as creative differences with the Cloud9 roster and coaching staff. So, Tenz, the Canadian aiming sensation, was wasting away as a bench warmer, withering away until he was to be forgotten. This was his legacy, and this was his chance gone. This is what would have happened had there not been a second chance right around the corner in the form of Riot Games' new tactical shooter, Project A, soon to be known as Valorant. The game was a character-based tactical shooter along the lines of Overwatch or Rainbow Six, combined with the precise gunplay of Counter-Strike. Tenz was one of the first veterans of Counter-Strike to start experimenting with the new game. With his mechanical skill and game awareness transferring with him, he set himself up to be one of the best in the new game. Still signed with Cloud9, Tenz announced that he was swapping games, being the first player on the Cloud9 Valorant team. People knew how talented Tenz was, and he showed them further when he was the first person ever to reach the highest rank in Valorant, which at the time was simply called Valorant. Confusing as it may be, it was a sign of things to come as Tenz proved that he would soon be the patriarch of the entire game. With his new team and new game, Tenz finally had the chance to capitalize on his talent and become someone worth noting. And become someone he did, as Cloud9 Blue, the all-male North American team, started gaining traction, winning smaller events such as the Elite Esports Rivalry Bowl and the Esports Doug Charity Clash. They were on the rise. Tenz was under the spotlight more than ever before. His contributions to the team were so well known and received that Cloud9 was commonly referred to as Tenz and Friends. It finally felt like Tenz had lived up to the hype and was on his way to be the best in the world, but as the competitive level of Valorant started to rise, Cloud9 was steadily declining in their notable wins. Consistency seemed to be the issue that plagued the team the most, as one minute they'd be going toe-to-toe with the best teams in the world, and the next, they'd be dropping games to teams such as Renegades or T1, teams that were middle of the pack at most. Tenz was the constant bright spot for the team, but it just wasn't enough to keep Cloud9 afloat for long. They were still a good team, sure, but a top team? Not anymore. But the silver lining was, another team needed a top-tier player, and Tenz was who they sought. A team that had had a major controversy that rocked the Valorant scene to its core was looking for a loan of Tenz from Cloud9. They wanted a competitor who could make plays and be decisive enough to win fights, and mesh well with the team. This team was Sentinels.
Is Tenz. He's got the frenzy, and he's got a kill. Man, all up in Moose's face, and he's getting a jumping one as well on the beef. I said this the first time I called Tenz. This is his world, and we're just living in it. He's got 4. He's going hard.
Full of young ex-Counter-Strike players like Tenz, with enough star power to win the games that Cloud9 was unable to. And so, they quickly established themselves as the top team in North America. With Valorant holding qualifiers for their first LAN tournament, wins now for teams were more important than ever before, but both Tenz and the Sentinels were ready. They obliterated top-tier teams such as FaZe and Version 1 with little resistance. Tenz was constantly standing out, always on the top of leaderboards, always in the highlight reels with insane flicks and headshots, always utilizing abilities and taking space in ways that other players didn't expect. He was on top of the world. But his greatest challenge was yet to come, at Masters Reykjavik, the first LAN tournament for Valorant. There he would go up against the best of the best, teams such as Liquid and Fnatic from Europe, and teams like Newturn from Korea. This was the highest level of play possible. The pressure was on. Would Tenz crack under the pressure again? Or would he rise from the ashes of his former Counter-Strike self to grab this opportunity and to cement himself as the best player in Valorant? Well, you know the answer to that, as Tenz and the Sentinels swept the competition at Reykjavik, not dropping a single map. Tenz was at the wheel, being the driving force that allowed the Sentinels to win with conviction and superiority. Team after team dropped in their path until finally they were in the grand finals. There, they would go to play against the best team in Europe, Fnatic. This was it, the final stepping stone to a world title. The pathway was clear. All they needed to do was win the game. And win is exactly what they did, 3-0ing Fnatic to become Valorant's first worldwide champions.
Dome was close, they don't know.
Oh my god, he gets flashed!
The team flash! The team flash! Magnum's in the smoke here. Tenz.
Oh my god!
Magnum's got no HP! Not like this! Sentinels! They're gonna get the defuse! They've done it! Sentinels are the Masters 2 Reykjavik champions! And they do it flawlessly! They didn't drop a single map! They have made history here, Riv, because they are the first global champions.
Tenz was no longer the Canadian Cloud9 player who couldn't handle the pressure of the big leagues. He was now the best player in the world of the hottest game in the world. He showed that mechanical skill and aim beyond the confines of reality were possible. And just like that, he showed that there was no one better. So where does that leave us now? Well, as the next Valorant tournament starts up, Tenz is back at it again, this time a permanent player for Sentinels, as he was bought in with what is thought to be a 6-figure deal from Cloud9. So for now, it looks like he's going to continue to play with the team and frag out of his mind. He'll continue to show why he's the king of Valorant, and why he not only deserves, but demands respect whenever he's in the lobby. He'll show you why he is, and always will be, the best player in the world. This has been Flavors Esports, and thank you for watching.